This quote came across my phone that I was like, oh my God, like aha, because it was so true. And as you know, sometimes it resonates with you even stronger. But there was this one quote I want to leave everyone with, which basically says, a wise woman can predict the future because she creates it. And I
Oh my
think to me, that's
God.
so, yes, I hope you love it. I'll put it in a little
It
plaque
was
for you. Oh, it's true. And
a
I think we
wise
have the
woman.
power.
Wait, do it one more time. Erminia, thank you so much for joining the Women Rocking Travel series. And because you are rocking travel, Erminia. And what I want to ask you before we talk about you, I want to talk about Air Canada Vacations and the initiatives that you've taken towards celebrating women 4 years in a row. I remember the first year you had the luncheon, you had Judy Cameron, female
Mhm.
pilot at Air Canada, who became somewhat famous, I suppose, in that circle. You had her speaking out. It was a very small group, and you've slowly grown it. I want to ask you, what was the impetus behind wanting to do these luncheons? Because you're the only operator entity that I know in the industry that is doing this, and you're very committed to it. So why?
Honestly, Nina, and thank you so much for this. I think it was something like we said 4 years ago, and you were so gracious to attend the event and always supporting it. So thank you so much. But it was exactly like I said. It was a vision from one of my very own team. We know Christine. She put this forward for years before it actually came to life.
Mhm.
A business proposal, Nina, pictures, how she envisioned it in the future. And it was just it required somebody to put it forward, to let it move forward. And then we knew exactly the first year because she had so many inspirational stories. And then we started talking amongst ourselves. And I had so many inspirational stories about women in general, and let's celebrate them. And then we thought, let's give it a try. Our first year, it was absolutely successful. And then here we are 4 years later. But it was really to recognize the women who have paved the way for us in this industry. But most importantly, to show gratitude, because if it wasn't for specific people in this industry, we wouldn't see the amount of successful women in here. So that's the reason why we did what we did, and we're committed to continuing it no matter how busy things get at Air Canada Vacations.
You still pull it off. I know it's
Oh,
amazing, actually. Yeah. So, because it's certainly been a busy time in the last couple of weeks, as far as I can tell. Yeah, a little bit
yes.
busy. Erminia, let's talk about you. Way back when, in the role of a BDM, we learn to be in a service nature towards the advisor community, right? We're there to support them, we're there to help them with their sales. And saying no isn't necessarily part of the vocabulary. You're going to go to bat. They have a file, they have a difficulty. You're going to go to your boss, you're going to say, hey, let me see what I can do, right? That's your whole persona ultimately, male or female. But in the role that you're in now, which, major congrats on your career path as the sales director, as the one who's leading the team, you now have to say no. And you have to support strategies and policies that may not always seem like they're in the best interest of the advisor because you're running a business. And sometimes there are
Mhm.
business issues. So, how does it feel to now be in the role of saying no?
Wow. Good question. Um, this business is so relationship driven. And
Yeah.
first of all, I have to say, I think the reason why women are succeeding in leadership in general is because we do relationships extremely well. We've got the empathy, we've got the bonding, we understand it. But I think even though we don't always showcase it, we are very good at knowing what the boundaries are. And you're right, you become friends with all of these advisors over the
Yeah.
years. You have to make hard decisions of, who are we going to be working with, strategies that you're second guessing. And sometimes it also requires people that you're no longer going to be working with. And how do you say no? I have to tell you that was a lesson that I learned from some of my mentors throughout the years where I actually got to witness it. So that was important to me. And then on top of it, just life in general. Stuff
Mhm.
happens in life, and then you realize I need some boundaries to protect my peace. It's no different than it is in work because you're protecting your team, you're protecting the
Yeah.
business. And at the end of the day, we always used to say, and I think you and I joked about it too sometimes, is the power of no is powerful. The only twist that I add to it, some of the executives I used to work with would never allow an explanation. They don't have time for an explanation. I'm different. I'm very communicative. I'm very transparent. So at the end of the day, to me, it's important, Nina, if I say no to you, I'm not going to brush you off and just not give you a reason. I'm going to let you understand the reason of why I'm saying no to you. And I think it works well. So it's boundaries and pure transparency that I think works for my version of what leadership
Right.
is.
Right. I think as women, that there is a handicap to a degree in the sense that being a bad guy is not something that we feel comfortable with. Because I think, playing that role, and as you said, you do it in your fashion, which mitigates, that type of relational negativity, if you will, because you're providing rationale, etc. But in general, I think that when we're assertive, at least I've experienced this, you're labeled a bitch occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't as accepted as a male being assertive. I know when I was in sales myself, and I would be assertive, I was labeled as aggressive. So things that are okay for a male are not necessarily in the realm of okay for women. Are you seeing that change, and do you experience that?
Honestly, and I always say, and honestly, Nina, even people like you, I have to say thank you because it's exactly people like you that have paved the way for me. I don't deal with, and I know sometimes we're having these conversations of, all the difficulties that you've been through the past decades, just being in the business alone. And I even had this conversation with Dina Bertolo, our VP of product. And I had to thank her as well because I said, thank you for paving the way for me because these stories that I heard 20, 30 years ago, I've never experienced those stories here at or anywhere throughout my career. I've been, I guess, lucky and blessed when it comes to that. So I think that is so important to recognize it and then just feeling that power. And it is quite powerful to be assertive. It is quite powerful to be so confident in the messaging of whatever it is that you're delivering to anybody that at the end it's so powerful also to not care about how people now perceive me. So difficult, the B word, that never want to deal with her again, or wow, that's what I'm hoping I get out of it. She can handle it, calm and firm. And I think that's what's important. But again, I have to thank so many people in this industry that haven't given me the difficulty of all the stories that I've heard. So once again, thank you so much personally.
Dina Bertolo is unquestionably a star out there in the world of leading women by example. So yeah, I can imagine she was a great mentor for you. Do you find that we as women have to, because everything you talked about is a bit of a balancing act, do you find that we have to balance more than your male colleagues, for instance?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yes, I see that all the time. And sometimes I could be having a conversation of, I'm trying to catch up on I'm reading a book and I'm interested and I just can't seem to find the time or the time is for rest in my case lately. And I was talking to a couple of my male colleagues too. It's like this is what you should do. And it was interesting because it was on the weekends or at nighttime, and it was great advice, don't get me wrong. But I thought, I got to get home and, tend to my children, give them a little bit of attention, prep a meal, prep the next day meeting that because I didn't have time. So I don't think so. If there's any tips out there, for sure, there is definitely a balancing act for sure. And last year, I don't know if you recall, we had this heart to heart conversation at the Women's Day event talking about, can women have it all? And
Yeah.
someone had said to me, no, you can't. And I was so heartbroken, Nina, of like, I can't be a mother and I can't have drive and I can't climb up that ladder in my career. And it broke me for a couple of years and I retracted until I started witnessing people within my own industry that was showing me that you could have it all. Yes, you make concessions. You have to say no to certain things. I'm very quiet on my weekends, very reserved just to catch up on my energy. But I think for sure when it comes to the difference, it is definitely, I see it, I see the difference and I see it every day in myself.
It's an incredibly demanding industry. There's no question about that. No, no matter what side of the table you're on, it is fast-paced, margins, chasing margins, changing
Mm,
circumstances. It is unbelievably demanding. So as a woman who also has a family, I would imagine it's on steroids, the demands that are being, and plus you're in the travel industry, so you have to travel. You're constantly on aircraft, you're constantly running to airports, you're having conferences, you're meeting with advisors and your team. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Honestly, I would think you'd have to have quite a bit of a storage supply of batteries at home that you recharge every day. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. So it sounds to me like you're almost saying to yourself, maybe I should have more energy, but holy cow, Erminia, look at the demands that are placed on you.
yes, just alone on the past 6 months of the changes, the
Yeah,
disruptions, and I think that's why we always say you better. And I say this to my team all the time. And again, I recognize that with women leaders or any leader in general, where they are really tell their team, you better love the people that you work with. We spend so much time
yeah,
working with them, especially in sales. And I had said, again, during a rough time in my life, I had said thank you to my outside industry friends outside of Air Canada Vacations. They helped me rebuild that. I had a laugh. I forgot about everything that was going on at that time. It was them, that my competitors, that helped build that. So it really is so important to enjoy your job alone, but the people that are around you. And for
yeah,
me, I'm quite content right now knowing I have a great time with the team. I have great time when you and I get to travel together. We catch up. It's my social that's my social life and I'm quite
yeah.
happy with it. I just know how to balance it when you get home. And luckily I have a partner. My kids completely understand. My parents understand. It's the weekend. Erminia is on her downtime. I
Right.
tend to hibernate on the weekend, but other than that, I think it's all like what you said. It's just balancing to make sure that I can still have everything that I've ever wanted to strive for, with knowing when to recharge.
I hear you. Now that Air Canada Vacations for the last few years is part of the fabric of Air Canada, because certainly 20 years ago it was two very separate entities, didn't really talk to one another. Now, even in the financials that come out of Air Canada, every quarter, Air Canada
Mhm.
Vacations is mentioned, right? So it's a very big shift in the structure and in the approach to the tour operator side. So now that you're part of that bigger family, which is very corporately driven, um, do you find that you behave a little bit differently being part of a very male driven corporate organization? Because when it comes to hardware, I find it's male. In the industry, that still seems to be the way it is. Software more female, hardware male. So where you've got, metal, men. So you are in a room with a lot of men. And do you find that's changed how you interact?
So interesting. Amongst ours at Air Canada Vacations, as you know, with Nino at the realm there's five at the senior leadership level, five females, four males. So we have overtaken that, which is so good to see. We had just made a chuckle over it not too long ago. Nino was so proud about that too. And he's like, see, that this is why we're a good team,
Yeah.
because we have mostly females on it. So that's the first thing. But I did go past couple of years, I've been so blessed to attend the Air Canada Summit. And you're right, the connections I've made alone just by being being kind of like merged with the Air Canada team.
Mhm.
So to answer your question, initially I would say yes. You get into, a room, a conference room in this case, full of, I mean, there's diversity. Of course, there's still many women, but on the panel, you do tend to see a lot more men. And you think you have that initial intimidation, very corporate, until you have a side conversation with any one of them. And in many cases, I've been able to do, interviews and travel agent appreciation days with some of them because, again, we're cross collaborating on the Air Canada side, which is so wonderful. And I have to say no. And I really believe that it's all in how you portray yourself to a specific person, how you present yourself, how you speak to the person. And I've always been welcomed with, wow, that guy was pretty human. And I think I'm seeing more and more of that for sure. And it could be for them, there's more women entering the more of the leadership role, and they're getting accustomed to it. And they're also being customized on how to adjust yourself when you're working with so many more female than male.
And being in the room is so important. So the fact that you're attending those events, that you show up and that you're seen, is step one, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you're not at the table, it's very, very difficult to then build that career because who knows who Erminia is back at the office. So yeah, no, that's great that you're attending those events and that you're having those relationships and experiences. I'm glad to hear that women are,
Mhm.
well, Air Canada Vacations, first of all, but all the women there that are now being incorporated much more into the Air Canada fold. I think that's a huge step. Yeah. Anything you'd like to
Absolutely.
add, Armenia? Any wisdom, thoughts that you have for the advisors who are listening to us, who are so many of them, of course, are women?
Oh, you know what? It's so funny, Nina, because yesterday I was thinking about, of course, I'm so honored to come on here and talk to you for, an hour. I think at the end we had some free time, which I always appreciate and thank you. But it was funny because sometimes, you joke around about your phone is hearing everything. So if you're talking about something by the time you
Yeah.
get home, and this quote came across my phone that I was like, oh my God, like aha, because it was so true. And as you know, sometimes it resonates with you even stronger. But there was this one quote I want to leave everyone with, which basically says, a wise woman can predict the future because she creates it. And I
Oh my
think to me
God.
that's so, yes, I hope you love it. I'll put it in a little
It was
plaque for you. Oh, it's true. And
a
I think we
wise
have the
woman.
power.
Wait, do it one more time. A wise
So a
woman.
wise woman can predict the future because she creates it.
Mm.
So, yeah, I know life, throws stuff at us. But I honestly could be, especially the past 5 years for me, this is where I wanted to be. This is how I wanted to be at home as a mother, in a career, with my girlfriends, with my partner, and I created it. And that was so important. So it resonated with me. And I just wanted to share that and say thank you again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and get your feedback and your advice, that we have these discussions and really continue doing, and the things that you do for us at Air Canada Vacations. Nina, thank you. Thanks for always supporting us, and especially
Well,
the Women's Day event.
I mean, the feeling's mutual. And yay for being where you want to be. That is the best message I could hear because I don't think a lot of people can say that necessarily. To be grateful for what they have and where they are at that particular moment in time in their lives. Great. Lovely to hear from you, Armenia. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Nina.